Mulțumesc!
Să fac dus și să citesc.
With a price tag of $249, Hiby is creating a new Project Ace. It is made in collaboration with FAudio, or FAudio if you want to be correct about the naming. And Project Ace is an EM or in-ear monitor with a custom cable that has modular jacks, also based around a 12mm dynamic driver. So I like to start my reviews with a slight dose of honesty. So this is how I picked them up. As you can see, the cable is not very tangle prone, but only slightly. So I like to give you the exact raw experience that you'll have when using them. Project Ace has detachable cables at the EM level, and although the cable is detachable, it is one of the main reasons you would purchase this EM. The cable is based on a 2-pin connector, which is very common, also easy to remove, and the EMs have hard metallic shells. This comes with both an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that hard metallic shells are very resilient, well made, and they will likely resist wear and harsh usage, but at the same time it means they are heavy. The design in particular of the Project Ace is quite large, and besides being quite large, they also have a pretty large bore, so the tubes that go inside of your ears are on the large side. On my ears, the EMs try to go for a deep fit. They can't go for a deep fit because my ear canal is too small, so they end up sitting in a shallow position where the EM body tends to be somewhat sticking out of my ear, which means that it is pulled down on the gravity. It also pulls down on the cable. And if the EM would typically sit like this at a 45 degrees angle, I have to put it like this, somewhat with the EM cable pointing towards my eyes. So it should sit with the cable like this, you know, at a 45 degrees compared to the line of my eyes. So I have to keep them like this, which does result in a decent comfort, but they still feel quite large and they don't go inside of my ears. Most EMs in this price range tend to be a bit more comfortable. With that out of the way, Project Ace is very well made. Although this is a full metallic EM, it has a good amount of ventilation, so much in fact that it barely offers any kind of passive noise isolation. You'll hear everything that's happening on the outside, including any kind of background noise. You'll hear conversations, you'll hear self-typing at the keyboard, everything will be clearly audible to you. That's not as big of an issue as you'd imagine, because usually the sound drowns out with a bit of music, and also Project Ace in particular doesn't sound so great when it's listened quietly. You have to go for a medium or a high level to fully enjoy them. To expand a bit on this, the sound at the lowest level tends to be quite flat, and I mean absolutely flat. The bass is linear, the mid-range is quite linear and a bit dynamically compressed, while the treble is quite linear up to about 12 kHz, after which it rolls off entirely. This is also present on the Hiby website, where they show that the treble has extension up to 12 kHz, after which it quickly dips with about 20 decibels of energy. That's very much audible. You'll hear the treble roll off. It feels like the treble completely disappears above 12 kHz, but it results in a pretty relaxed, somewhat enjoyable treble that allows you to pump the volume in most rock and metal tracks. Hiby and FAudio Project Ace tends to be easy to drive. They need a bit more power than most EMs, but they are not comparable to headphones, yet they are somewhat sensitive to source noise. Not the most sensitive, so imagine a medium sensitivity. They don't scale with the source at all. Basically, they will sound pretty consistent across sources, which I think is a big plus, because I don't want the EMs to depend a lot on the source, yet they depend a lot on the listening volume. So while with some EMs you get a lot of dependence on the source, and even some headphones like cross-on headphones, typically cross-on headphones tend to sound extremely different across different sources. They really need that best source to shine. Speaking of a source that makes you shine, this is the stack that I've used the most for listening. For most reviews recently, because I really like it, is the iBasso D16 and the iBasso PB5. It's not a stack from Hiby, and I have not heard a flagship DAP from Hiby. I don't know anything about them. Maybe in the future we'll have the luck to review a Hiby flagship. So far the best DAP that I had from Hiby has been R63 with the iBasso stack with the PB5 and D16. I was actually surprised to hear that Project Ace doesn't scale so much with the source. Basically, it would still sound great even with Hiby Air 4, which is a pretty affordable DAP, and even a source like FAudio K11R2R. So we have established that the sound of the Project Ace does scale with the source, but what is the sound like? Well, since it does scale a bit with the source, I will judge the sound at medium levels, because that is what most people typically listen at, and unless something prevents you from listening at medium, most of my reviews try to focus on the sonic quality and performance either at medium or medium high levels, because I personally am not someone who listens very quiet, so it doesn't really make sense for me to explore the sound at a volume I don't listen at. I try to emphasize with my taste so that you can get a similar experience to me. Hiby Project Ace sounds quite detailed, quite punchy, and quite vivid at this medium-high volume. Once you go below about 30% of the typical volume, so at about 60 decibels of listening, that is about where things to start go really flat. Anything below 60 decibels will sound flat, the sound will be a bit dynamically compressed. You'll hear the details being at the same level as the main sound, so both the background and the foreground are compressed. There is more dynamic compression sound, the entire sound is at the same volume, and everything sounds a bit like a radio compression, which is really tight. On the other hand, the soundstage tends to be on the wide side at high volumes, and at low volumes it tends to be quite compressed. Once again, very intimate, very smallish sound, but with good focus. At all volumes, the mid-range is lush, it has a good amount of body strength, and it's warm. It is really, really pleasing. The mid-range is always quite enjoyable. It brings musicality into both male and female voices, and it has a natural tonality. Basically, nothing sounds wrong with the sound of the Project Ace. It always sounds natural, it doesn't require time to get used to, and it will sound natural at all times. The disadvantage is that, although the bass is quite full and extends well in the lows, the treble tends to have that sharp roll-off which is present in Hiby's own graphs. So Project Ace is the kind of EM or in-ear monitor that's made for those who like a lot of impact, a lot of sound, a lot of volume, but who want a relaxed treble. It will satisfy most rock and metal enjoyers, also those who listen to a lot of pop, EDM, and even some rap music, because it has a good amount of strength in the sub bass, especially as the bass can climb as low as 30 Hz. But at the same time, for classical music and for more relaxed music, the sound can be a bit too relaxed and too laid back. If you are actively looking forward to this kind of signature, it will surely satisfy your needs. Hiby Project Ace is the kind of EM that sounds much different than its design. Even the package makes it look really edgy and really powerful, really sleek and modern, but the sound is actually one of the most romantic, one of the most musical, lush and full sounds that I've heard. It is one of those rare occasions when the angular design of the EM shell doesn't really tell anything about the actual experience and tuning you'll get out of the Project Ace. Now, on the question of whether it is worth the asking money or not, it depends on what you're comparing it to. For example, in the same price range, we have the Kiwi Ears Quintet. The Quintet is an excellent EM. I really liked the Quintet, but the mid-range is a bit unnatural. As reported by most listeners, the Quintet makes voices sound a bit unnatural. It takes some time to get adjusted to, and although the Quintet has a better overall comfort because the EMs are smaller, lighter, and also the bore is quite a bit thinner, the Quintet doesn't sound as good as the Project Ace. Project Ace doesn't reveal as much detail, but it makes the detail much easier to listen to and much easier to enjoy. So on that note, I would recommend the Project Ace, especially if you like a warmer, fuller, more romantic sound. We can also compare the Project Ace with Simgot EA1000 Fermat. EA1000 Fermat sounds really open. There is this feeling that it's open back. It doesn't isolate at all from the outside noise, but Project Ace doesn't really do that either. So we are talking about 5 to 10 decibels of passive noise isolation on both. EA1000 Fermat tends to sound a bit more scattered. The sound doesn't have as good of a definition and separation, while Project Ace sounds quite a bit more distinct, the instrument separation is a bit better, and Project Ace just tends to render details a bit more obvious to you, and also layering is a bit better. In that situation, I would still choose Project Ace, especially if you can deal with the comfort. Since it has a larger EM bore, I would recommend it for someone with larger ears and larger ear openings. As it doesn't really rely on the source, you can purchase the project case and enjoy it, and even the company knows it's not reliant on the source, so much so that they make a Type-C USB cable that has a dock inside, powerful enough to drive the project case almost to full performance. So regardless whether you are using a dongle, the cable intended for it, or even Hiby R63, it will still sound quite excellent. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been enjoyable to watch. I hope it answers your questions about Hiby Project Ace, and if it doesn't, please type your question in the comments. Don't forget I have purchase links in the video description, and buying through them I may earn a few dollars to keep the electricity running in my little review studio. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can donate directly as well if you found my opinions interesting and helpful. I hope we'll see each other really soon, and I hope you have a lovely week out there. Bye bye!